Hello, everyone. Let me take my thing down here so you can see where we are. And sorry, we're just a little bit late today, but we're glad you're here. You gonna say good morning?
Oh, I can hear you.
I see. Okie dokie. Let me take this banner down here. All right. Let's see. We've been rushing because we woke up a little late. We stayed up a little late and we slept a little late. So we're running around trying to get ready for y'all. I hope y'all had a good night last night.
I hope you did too.
He said something.
Oh,
He said something. Oh my gosh. Let me see who's here. Let's see. Here's my sissy and brother-in-law. Hey, darling. Hey, James D. and KK. Hello, Kathy. Good morning to you. Hey, Dee Dee. Good morning, sweetie pie. And then there's Sandra. Hey, Sandra.
good morning.
Good morning to y'all. Hey, Phyllis and Edward. Good morning to y'all. There's Bernie Byrne. I spoke to her yesterday. Hope
I'd
she's
like to
doing well.
talk to you and see you come and holler at
Yeah,
me.
she said, I don't think they're going to hear a thing you said. Because you talking like this.
I know it don't feel good.
John Grease is in the house.
Oh, greasy.
I'm glad you're here, John. And there is Yvette. Hey, Yvette. We got the Ethiopian Bible, didn't we, babe? From
Yeah.
them. Yes, we did. We did. Thank you, Yvette and Leslie. Thank you so much for that. Hope you're having a good day so far. Uh, let's see. Let's see. What do I want to do first? The Spirit of God has had us going in a totally different direction lately. Um, I don't know what the deal is, but and I don't want to be too controversial.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're about to say or talk about might be, huh? A
It
little
could
bit,
be.
yeah. Um, but in dealing with conditionings and coming to a place of transcending your own personal conditionings, we find ourselves now in a thank you, Phyllis, because you can see and hear us. Thank you, sweetie. We find ourselves in a place where we're having to transcend the position, the conditioning of our race, our physical body's lineage. We're at that point, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not pretty.
No.
It's not pretty, but it's necessary. And so, for those of you who are of the Caucasian race, who are lighter skinned people who are not of the black race, this may, I hope it doesn't cause too much tension for you. For those of you who are of the black race, your body is the black lineage. This may be eye opening, although some of you may already know this information. And again, it isn't to bring up any issues of racism or anything like that, but it is to point out where your body's conditioning has started. Um, and it further indicates who you are, uh, not so much from the actual lineage of your body, where your body came from, but where all men came from,
Mm-hmm.
all humankind came from. And it hasn't been taught openly. It's now more uh, exposed
It's coming
to the
out.
masses,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And we, the the world, the masses have evolved
Mm-hmm.
to the point where they want to know the truth, um, and they want to be uh, completely clear. Brother Blue said he's having prostate surgery. He said he won't need surgery.
Yeah.
Oh, great, Great, Brother Blue. Great.
Glad to hear the good
Great,
news,
great,
man.
great, great, great. I am so elated about that. Thank you, Lord, for that. We've had all kinds of little, they're kind of little emergencies, but they're emergencies this week, haven't we? We've had all kinds of little emergencies. Hey, Pearl. And Leslie just popped in. Hey, Leslie.
Leslie, good afternoon. Good morning. If I don't see you no more, good night.
So we've had all kinds of little personal emergencies. Nothing major or life-threatening, but just all kinds. But what we've seen in the midst of it is God taking care of us, haven't we?
It's pretty tight. It's pretty tight.
It is tight, but
it's been amazing.
But we've seen the Lord help us through a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
One guy came by yesterday and completely cleaned all of our concrete.
I asked him how much would he charge to do it. I told him I don't have the money to pay him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, don't worry about it. I went to a job, he said, and they canceled. And he just stopped right in the middle of the street when I was talking to somebody. And I said, go look at it. So he went to come down and looked at it. And he said, pay me when you can. And then I told him, I said, I don't know when that's going to be. And he said, don't worry about it. I do things for neighbors and things that need help. And no sooner I gave him that job, he was going to charge me $160, but he said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And before he left, he got another job right across the street that paid him. Mm-hmm. So that's what's been going on with us. Awesome things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're just so happy about Brother Blue, and everybody's kind of
that's good,
rejoicing about it. And I'm so glad for you, Brother Blue. And I know your wife and baby is too.
Yeah.
So what was I saying?
About what's going on in the racial.
Yes. So when you transcend your own personal conditionings,
mm-hmm.
you will find yourself having to transcend the conditioning of your entire lineage. And for some of us, it's difficult because our lineage has not been pretty. It has not been pretty, particularly for Blacks. But I wanted to just touch base on something just before I start. I'm reading out of a book. Let's see, what book is this? Excuse me. It's called The Real Christ by Bernadette Roberts.
Mm.
She, I think, was a nun who had the mystical awareness of oneness. And so she wrote from that aspect. She was in this particular part. I wanted to just quickly read it because it kind of spoke to me. It's about how all of us see God or relate to God. So I think every last one of us has our own. We have our own way of relating to God. And you've been talking about people. You run into so many people saying the man upstairs. Mm-hmm. That's how a lot of people relate to God. And if they haven't had any mystical experiences, that's what the majority of people, that's how they relate to God.
Yeah, that's right.
And live their entire lives like that, which is nothing wrong with. We're just saying this is how they relate to God.
Misplaced identity.
Yeah. And God is still at such a distance and so remote, but and it creates problems, but it also gives them a certain level of pleasure because they have the opportunity to experience God as an other, separate and apart from themselves. So I haven't read this all the way, so I'm not sure how it's going to read, but let's see here. Another issue is whether or not God, as revealed to man, is actually God in itself or just a particular way or mode God chose to reveal itself to man. So now that says to me that there are those of us who had God to reveal itself in a certain way, and that then becomes our set point as to how we relate to God. And then it says, this issue of God is where we meet at the crossroad. Paul may have had the Judaic view of God, but the Gentiles had a different view.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes back to what I was saying about the children living in the same house with the same two parents, going through the same life experiences, but experiencing it totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Because my parents related to me differently than they related to my baby sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so she experienced them from another mode, another view than I did,
Mm-hmm.
which makes our experience absolutely different.
Yeah.
And so God has done pretty much the same thing, revealed itself to a lot of us in different ways. Like
Mm-hmm.
he revealed himself to you in a mystical way.
Uh-huh.
That doesn't happen to everybody.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
So there's a variety of ways we have all, or modes we are all in when it comes to God
Mm-hmm.
and how we relate to God. So now learning our conditionings in the case of what we're going to share a little bit of today, this is going down the rabbit hole of how much conditioning has happened with the Black race.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this what this is doing. So buckle up. Again, I'm not sure why the Spirit of God taking us in this direction, but this is what we have been. This is where our focus has been. There was in the days of slavery, when they were bringing the slaves over initially, they had to. They lost a lot of them because there were 30 million slaves. First of all, 30 million roughly that they brought over on the boats. Some of them died in the boats. Some of them got here, but they were sick when they got here. And they were not ready to work because of the conditions that they were in. They didn't have hygiene on the boat. They were fed very little. So they were in very poor conditions. So they were sickly. And so the slave owners came up with a system to get them ready to work. And that system was called, they started calling it seasoning.
Mm.
Seasoning. And I'm going to read just a little bit from Wikipedia for you. If you go to ChatGPT, which is AI, and you look up any of the information that I'm saying today, that we're talking about today, you will see it. It's there for everybody to see and read. But I want to start with this first, and I don't know if some of our Caucasian family knows this, but they may and they may not. The conclusion from my studies is that the first humans were dark skinned, and they originated somewhere near Africa or in Africa, Asia, Africa. That's the scientific word on that the first humans originated dark skinned. So that, first of all, tells you this, that what we have been preconditioned to believe as a Black race is that we were lesser than. And so I remember growing up as a little girl, wanting my hair to be straight and wishing my skin was lighter. Now it is. It's not all that great. But I remember we had this saying with Black people, they've got good hair. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
They've got good hair. Good hair meant it was straighter than everybody else's. It looked, and what was beautiful was those that looked more Caucasian or European or white, whatever however you want to say it. The biblical conclusion is that scripture doesn't give a skin color, but the geographic and cultural context points toward brown and dark skin, dark brown complexions, not white. So the world, the mankind, humankind didn't start out white. Now, you may already know this, and it may not be any new information. Theologically, what matters most is not the skin color of the first humans, but that all people come from the same human family. In Acts 17:26, it says, "From one blood he made all nations of men." So while our conditioning may be different from one race to the other, we are all the same family.
Mhm.
So the things that we, not just blacks, but all those who have been enfranchised, disenfranchised, have experienced the feeling that they are not as good as. And in our country right now, what we're experiencing is, and it's not one man, it's not just our current leadership, it's the machine behind it that's fueling all of this separation and further disenfranchisement. So we're finding ourselves having to transcend the things that have been done to people of color. I'll say people of color. And that machine has revved up its engine and is trying to further this separation. But the seasoning, I wanted to just give you guys just a little bit. If this is too controversial for you, let me know. And we will maybe go in a different direction. But this, I think, is where the Spirit of God has taken us. Seasoning was the period of adjustment that the slave traders and slave holders subjected the slaves to following their arrival in America. It was a process undergone by enslaved people. Slave traders used the term seasoning to refer to the process of adjusting the enslaved to the new climate, the diet, the geography, and ecology of America. The term applied to both the physical acclimatization, I can't say that word, the physical acclimatization of the enslaved person, the regimen to the environment, as well as that person's adjustment to new social environment, labor regimen, and language. So those who came here, who were brought here, had no understanding of what they were going to face. That's what they call seasoning, is preconditioning.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example of that I saw of what preconditioning actually is. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat this morning. I remember the game show Deal or No Deal. You remember that movie? I mean that show. There was they had the girls on the stage with the suitcases, and they had to pick the suitcases with the number in it. And so anyway, this one contestant was on stage, and they had brought her, I can't remember what family member it was. I think it was her son, who was in the military, to the show and placed him in the midst of those girls who had the suitcases. And she went through a whole round of picking numbers from those suitcases without even seeing him. Without even seeing him. He was right there in plain view. Everybody else could see him and knew he was there. But she did not see him. It's as if he wasn't there. Mm-hmm. He picked cases right next to where he was standing, right in front of where he was standing, and still didn't see him. Mm-hmm. She had been preconditioned that no one else would be up there except those girls holding those suitcases. So preconditioning, whatever you've been through and believe wholeheartedly, causes you not to see what's right in front of you. And I think part of our awakening is to be able to see what is right in front of us.
Mhm.
So our preconditioning is hindering us from being able to have clarity in a lot of areas. You want me to keep running?
Yeah,
on with
go
this?
ahead, go ahead.
Okay. All right. The slave traders and owners believed that if slaves survived this critical period of environmental seasoning, they were less likely to die, and the psychological element would make them more easily controlled. This process took place immediately after the arrival of enslaved people, during which their mortality rates were particularly high. These new or saltwater slaves, as they called them,
Mhm.
were described as outlandish on arrival. Now, this saltwater made me remember this part that we talked about last night. It's a known medical fact that Black folk have a higher incidence of high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Mhm. And when you trace it back and do your research and your study, you will find that the slave owners preferred those slaves that had a high salt content because they were able to work longer without water.
Mhm.
So here we go, and they conditioned them, they seasoned them by changing their diets so that that would happen. So for that reason, we have been, our proclivity as Blacks is to have more high blood pressure. So that's where that came from. We talk about breaking generational curses, but that started with our conditioning of the whole Black race, not just one of us.
Mhm.
It's not just coming from your immediate family. It's coming from your earth family, your original bloodline, all the way back. And so they were preferred when they had, so that's where that came from. There's so much, let's see, it talks about the diet. Uh, Seasoning was a training not only to hard work, but to a scanty diet. So they had to learn to eat just very little,
Mhm.
which also explains why a lot of our Black people ate a lot of pork. Pork kept your blood pressure high as well. They ate a lot of pork because the pork was cheaper, and they didn't eat they didn't have the best parts of that. They had the innards. That's where chitterlings came from. For those
Mhm.
who are Caucasian, don't know what chitterlings are. That's the intestines of the pig. So they were given the innards.
Mhm.
Okay. Slave owners drastically limited the slaves' diets, both in breadth and depth, to the diet of the plantations, which was chiefly composed of maize, which is corn, rice, or flour. Battered by this inadequate diet, enslaved people often suffered from dropsy, which is edema,
Mhm.
and fluxes, which is diarrhea, compounding their severe and widespread malnutrition. So here we go. This is where a lot of our sicknesses and diseases began.
Mhm.
This is where it began. Again, I'm not saying this to point out any racial things. I'm saying
This
this
is what
to
happened.
tell you the conditions that everybody was under in this
Well,
particular.
I remember when we were growing up, it was me and my two brothers and sisters. A lot of times we got up in the morning, we didn't have anything to eat. So I had to go to school without eating anything in the morning and didn't eat till over in the evening around
Mhm.
6 or 7.
Yeah, our generation, I think, saw more of the residue of this
Yeah.
than the the later
Mhm.
more recent generations. We experienced a lot of the hardship because our people were just beginning to pull out of it to
And
a
when they was
degree.
in school to be able to go to lunch break, they wouldn't let you go outdoors. You had to go lunch. And a lot of times I had to sit at the table and watch others eat when I didn't have anything at all.
We experienced some of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we experienced some of that too. The newly arrived slaves experienced high rates of disease and death during the seasoning process. During the Middle Passage, slave traders forced the enslaved Africans to live in tight quarters without ventilation, sufficient food or water, and with no opportunity for hygiene. In such conditions, enslaved people often contracted scurvy or amoebic dysentery, of which amoebic dysentery or bloody flux claimed the most lives. Once ashore, enslaved people lived in appalling conditions similar to those of the Middle Passage. Underfed and exposed to a new ecology, enslaved people then had to battle the new climate and forced hard labor. Weakened by the voyage and immediate brutality of slavery, many enslaved people died of smallpox, measles, influenza, and unidentified diseases at high rates in the first several years after arrival. That's because we had never been exposed to the diseases that were in this country. Labor, though it took many different forms, seasoning universally involved the further, what is that? They're using such big words, co-modification of human beings and their preparation by enslavers for the marketplace and labor. Enslavers accomplished this preparation by treating their slaves harshly, subjecting them to a brutal regimen of training and violence, lasting between 1 and 3 years. Oh my goodness. This process of adjustment was physically and psychologically taxing and marked by brutality and coercion. Slaveholders resorted to force and violence in order to subdue the saltwater slaves and extract their labor. Enslavers regularly beat their slaves, maimed them, placed them in stocks or solitary confinement. In one particularly cruel practice, the slaveholder would whip a naked woman, often pregnant, and pour salt, pepper, or wax into her open wounds. In addition to violence, enslaved people had to adjust to hard labor over the seasoning period. In the Caribbean, newly arrived slaves were given baskets for fertilizing the sugar fields the week they arrived. This was the first step in the essential process of training the new arrivals in the technologies of sugar cultivation. Elsewhere, too, enslaved people were taught how to cultivate and process crops, often including the ones meant to sustain the enslaved population during the seasoning. Over the seasoning period, slave owners wanted their slaves to acquire both knowledge of the labor and to become accustomed to the extreme workload. Training did not only take the form of labor. Enslaved people were also taught the language of the colony, either by other slaves who had already undergone the seasoning process or by white overseers of the plantation. So now what we are discussing this morning, and I don't know if we'll stay on it, but what we're discussing is the colonization of a particular race. And this particular race, of course, we're talking about is the Black race. The seasoning process was heavy conditioning. Heavy conditioning. So historically, the conditioning of the Black people is very dense. So that would explain to me, and I could be wrong about this, but that kind of gives me the feeling that the reason you don't see very many blacks or people of color going toward the non-dual message
they don't go toward
of oneness is because they are in such heavy conditioning that they're pulling up out of. And so they're the mode of the Black person is more about, I've got to get out of this that I've been in.
Yeah.
And it requires solutions and positive things I can do to pull myself up, which kind of goes contrary to coming into the oneness and saying, I don't activate from that egotistical mindset. It takes a lot of egotistical or egocentric thinking to pull yourself up out of the stuff that the black race has been in.
Mm-hmm.
So the focus is, and this is why you see more women in churches than you see men,
Uh-huh.
especially in the black church.
When we look at the situation that's going on in DC, Texas, California, and all the places that I haven't named that is going on, our government is taking back the old ways that used to be during those bad slave moments, such as when we went to school, we had to go to all where all black kids went to school,
Yeah.
and we were not allowed to walk even through the neighborhoods of where the light complexion people lived. And when somebody moved into an area that was no black in there,
Yeah.
that was really not
Yeah.
allowed, the light skinned people would move out. And we went to school where they did not teach the whole truth about what happened in the slave mentality. They just said discover America and Africa. And even Africans had this camp mentality against us over here. So we got a mixture of people. And my grandparents, none of them could read.
Right.
None of them could write.
My dad could do very little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mother could write some, but my brothers and sisters went to school, but they couldn't stay because they didn't have the clothes nor the food to eat.
So having said that, we see a lot of young people now who cannot read.
That's right.
Because they're still in that environment of disenfranchisement.
And they were hard, the family was hard on those who seemed to could go to school and read. They was hard. And in my case, I was raised up in a moonshine bootlegging, and everything that I ate came from the sale or the bartering or exchanging horses, doing work in the fields. And the stores we had owners, that black owners that owned stores in our neighborhood, but then I don't like to use the word black and white. I just don't care nothing about it.
No, we really don't like
No, but this is the way we were raised up. So I went all the way through school, and none of the grades that I made qualified me to pass. I got put back one time, and that was because I was acting crazy. And when I come home, my mama would sign my report card, but then after that, I knew how to draw her name on the paper.
Yeah.
And they never did get a chance to see my grades or my report card.
So basically what we're saying in the area of conditioning, the black race has been severely conditioned to not believe in themselves, to feel hopeless, to have to work harder than everyone else to get to where everyone else is already is, and they've got a whole lot more to work through to come into a mindset of feeling good about themselves. This is where a lot of them, if they go after the financial aspect because it makes them feel good about themselves. And they'd rather look good than anything else. They'll buy a luxury car and live in a shack.
That's right.
And in our black churches, this is where you see a lot of ceremonialism. You got all these labels and titles because this is the one place that they felt like they were worth something. And so they went for that. And a lot of them still do. A lot of ministries have started by pastors who this is the only place they felt self-worth.
During that time, there was 2 movie theaters that only the blacks could go to, and if we went to the other theaters where it was mixed racial differences, we had to sit upstairs, and the other one sit downstairs.
So it's separation.
Yeah,
We talk about separation now, but separation then was right in your face.
right.
It was in your face. And it wasn't so much separation from God, although it felt like that because we were conditioned to believe that we were the lesser race.
And and I'm sure that there was some white brothers and sisters that went through some
Sure,
severe suffering,
sure.
like the Indians did, and like some of the blacks did. But uh, education was limited. We were not allowed to go to the other schools. And then when we did go, they said, well, they getting more education, more information in school than we were. And come to find out, they were getting no more than the rest of us after we got in there.
Yeah.
But it was just the conditioning that we were put in. And the the most important thing we had to eat was country stuff, like at the city market. We would that was the time when the buses and tractor trailers did not operate on Sunday.
Well, yeah, that's right.
And that's the way it was.
And that was specifically in the South.
In the South. And then when we finally come around to ladies driving buses, it looked funny.
The two of us in our age bracket, we're in our 70s, getting in our late 70s now. We've seen so many changes take place over the years. However, the machine of separation between the races is still very much alive. And
but the idea of being saved and born again was an experience that did not include anything but a change in not drinking, not running around the street and partying. And if you did that, you were not considered to be saved. But in the country churches, all you got was black preachers preaching. No whites were allowed to go. And they thought that my daddy, raised in the country where slavery started, they thought that I was not my daddy's son because he was a real light-skinned man. And where he was raised up, that was slavery.
He looked like my father's people. They looked white. Because there was so much mixing of the slaves a lot of the women were just taken and used for sex.
And there was a big fight in my family about different ones of me and my brother and my sisters over whose daddy and who was the mom and all that kind of stuff.
I remember though, back when we were young in the ministry, very young in the ministry, not even pastoring yet, but we were doing a lot of traveling. And there was a gentleman by the name of Alan Arrowwood. You remember him? He was a prophet. And I remember we were at Neil Cato's house in South Carolina. All Caucasian people, no blacks whatsoever. We were the only two blacks.
Only ones.
And we were there in that mix. Alan Arrowwood, I remember, prophesied to you.
Yeah.
And he said you would bridge the gap between the whites and the blacks.
That's what he said.
He sure did. And that's happened.
Yeah.
That's happened. So
we stayed in a lot of houses we stayed in was old slave houses.
Yes, plantation houses. Exactly.
Houses,
It sure was. That was Hank and Barbara Reynolds. They lived in a plantation house, and we spent time with them there.
And there was a lot of black folks that had diseases and died. My brother had a friend that went to the black hospitals in Winston, and they didn't have enough people and conveniences to take care of every need that came in.
No, because they weren't given those things.
And this guy that my brother was friends with died in his arms.
In the emergency room.
In the waiting room.
Which was the emergency? Which was there?
Which was right next to the, yes. And it was really something to tell the captain.
So, having said that, I'm saying that it's like we're in this, if we're in a race running, we didn't get a head start. as a black race, we were placed way behind,
Yeah.
centuries behind everyone else,
Yeah.
or people of color have been way behind everyone else. And so to win, and when winning this race, we're having to struggle a lot harder.
Yeah.
And we've seen that over the years. We've had to struggle a lot harder. And of course, we've made some advances. Of course, we're doing better, but the conditioning is what we're dealing with. What we're having to transcend as a race is very, very important. I remember also we've also gotten the preconditioning that we can't really trust our own race or our own people when it comes to doctors and lawyers and even entrepreneurs, any kind of businesses that a black person runs. Our own black race has trouble patronizing those particular things.
Not anything that was preached in the church, the country churches, they look like little bitty slave houses where we had church in the country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we had,
well, when we first moved in, I call the big house. When we first moved, it was all white neighbors. I mean, all white people there. We were the first black family to move in.
yeah,
And I remember the big house was our house that we lived in was a 2-story house, and behind the house was a little shack that was for the slaves.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I experienced that.
Oh, that's right. It was something.
So even now, we would prefer, a lot of us would prefer to deal with a white person when it comes to our business and all of that, because like you said, when your brother friend died right there in the waiting room,
he got shot,
because blacks have not had the opportunity or access to the best educations. It's changing, but they haven't had access to the best of medical care. Right now, today, there are more black women dying from childbirth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
From childbirth.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
That means there's things still going on. So there's a lot of conditionings that we must transcend. And it isn't pleasant when you start looking into the conditionings. It isn't pleasant. But the one thing I want you to focus on is not so much racial problems and things that were done against us. What I want you to remember is what I said in the beginning, that the first humans, scientific fact, the first humans originated in Africa and were dark-skinned. That means God chose you. You were God's first creation.
Right.
That's God's first creation. And it's also scientifically known that the way the lighter skin evolved was because of the migrations. They migrated to places where there was less sunlight.
Yeah.
So complexions got lighter.
Yeah.
Things changed. So this is, the human race began looking like you. Yeah. I want to say that. Yeah, I just have to say it. Biblically, it says that because of their geographic location, that it points that all men started out with brown or dark brown complexions, not white.
Yeah.
Hollywood has portrayed that Jesus is white. You see a white man with blue eyes, angels with blonde hair. But it says in Revelation that Jesus had hair like wool. That's an afro.
Yeah, that's like mine. See how woolly it is.
More like mine. So I'm saying that to say, who is God's chosen people? Who is God's chosen people? It's not a black race. It's the original race, and that's what you're a part of. You're a part of that human family.
We talked about going to heaven. They talk about the man upstairs, but they never talk about the man that was inside of it.
Yes. So talk back at me. Let me know what you're thinking, what your thoughts are about this, and how our view of God is different because of some of that conditioning.
That's right.
Yeah, blacks had to find a way to God in the midst of all of that.
Mm.
So this is where a lot of the hymns came from. A lot of the traditional ways of black folk, why they are so emotional and passionate, more so than any other race.
And then what made it so bad when you went to school during that time? If you didn't go to school, they always said the Mall Industrial School or whatever they call that place where the children went. If you didn't go to school, they threatened us with fear and said they're gonna come and lock your parents up because they wouldn't let you go to school. And yet they didn't go to school, they didn't go to jail. And yet my brothers and sisters stayed out of school. I remember my sister going to the 6th grade, the 7th grade, but she couldn't stay because she couldn't pay the books, the fees. She didn't have one. She always talked to me about trying to get.
So a lot of them were dropouts because of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they were.
I remember my first time cutting class in school was because I didn't have my books yet.
Yeah.
And I was ashamed about it, so I cut class.
Oh,
so those kinds of conditions.
And then when you get home and the mom and dad find out you cut class, they get mad at you.
Yeah, but those
give you a whooping. But what good would that do? They were responsible
conditions,
for that.
some of those conditions that we have experienced have pushed us in certain directions and made us have certain kinds of behavior.
That's right.
And that's so when we look at a person and we judge them based on their behavior, we don't know what conditions they've been through.
That's right.
We don't know what they're having to transcend, what they're having to cope with, not so much transcend, just having to cope. And
when you rode the bus, you had to ride in the back of the bus.
Exactly. When you could ride.
You could, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so the conditionings is a very key element in our evolution. Now let's see what Kathy's saying. I'm glad you're saying something because nobody said anything except Jill. Creation did begin with dark-skinned people in evolution. In time, many became lighter and white. Many don't want to tell the truth. And it's because of the machine that's driving it all, Kathy. I'm not pointing to any particular person. I'm not even pointing at white people per se. Mm-hmm. It's the machine of separatism that has really decided to keep that going. But now there is no excuse for anyone not knowing because it's out here for everybody to see. Like I said, you can go to ChatGPT and it'll tell you everything. It'll tell you everything. So theologically, it says what matters most is not the skin color of the first humans, but that all people come from the same human family. Hey, Robert Mann. How you doing, Robert Mann? He said, the God of this world is an imposter that long ago enslaved humanity. Amen. Amen. Using the same trauma-based mind control, pitting one so-called race against the other throughout history, all based upon flesh and not the spirit. We souls are. Did you have more? He's probably typing a book. I know you're typing a book. Good morning, Robert and Denise. Good morning, sweetheart. Yes, and so it's out now. It's out. We've been fooled by Hollywood.
I mean, for real.
Fooled by Hollywood. Cecil B. DeMille made all of them folk kind of red.
Samson and Delilah.
Yeah, yeah. Cleopatra was not a white woman, and what's her name that played Cleopatra? She was so pretty, but that was not how Cleopatra looked. Cleopatra was black.
Elizabeth Taylor and all that.
And in the Vatican, there is a statue of a black Mary and a black baby Jesus.
I didn't know till now that the White House was used for slave owners.
Slaves built the White House.
And slaves built
and lived in the
White House.
And
it was a different color. Even the Statue of Liberty was a different color.
Yeah, there's so much history about that. But we're not saying this for people to get mad and fight and all of that. But we're saying even your body origin, you were the first creation of God. You, in fact, are God's chosen people. And no matter what color you are, so those of you who are Black, I say that to you specifically, particularly because I want you to know your worth, your value, and any of the beliefs that the voice in our head has been telling us is not true. It's not
My
true.
aunt used to go to work, and she worked for a banker, and they had a son that when his clothes or shoes were too small for him, she would bring his clothes home and give them to me for me to wear, because during that time,
hand me downs, hand me
I
downs.
didn't have but one or two pair of overalls to wear, and the old shoes that I wore, some of them was the sole was wore out. They didn't have the money to get them fixed, so I had to go to
you experienced the flap on the
flap
shoe,
on the
the
shoe,
sole flapping,
flap,
and you hoped it didn't rain because your foot would get wet.
And so what they did, they would cut that part of the shoe off, and you go to school walking one leg up, one leg down.
Yeah. Now Pearl saying this. Pearl says you don't know anyone's story and what they've been going through. You don't know what they, and so this is the more of the reason why, not just so much because non-dual teaching says is, or the Course in Miracles says you shouldn't have judgment, but because we don't know where they've been, what they've experienced. We don't know what they've been through.
That's right.
That made them like they are. I do know a lot of the men in our family, Black men in our dad's generation, they couldn't read, they couldn't write. They felt, when they were in the midst of people who could, they felt lesser than, and so it made them more violent. Because you better not say anything to them that made them feel stupid. You better not say anything that made them feel stupid. And they could not compete with language. They didn't have the vocabulary. So the first thing they did was knock your head off.
They slapped. They slapped you.
They just knocked you down.
Like slapped Daffy Duck, and his head would spin around, and his beard would be in the back of his head.
And we wonder why they were abusive, but they actually saw abuse of women. They saw, and if you go back and you look at some of the old black and white movies, even the white men were abusive to women back then.
Yeah, they would put shoe polish.
I remember this. John Wayne did a movie with this lady that you liked so much. What's her name? She got red hair and everything. I can't think of that lady's name.
Yeah.
But he was a boxer, an ex-boxer, and she wanted him to fight because she wanted to get married, but she said he had to get her dowry, and her brother wouldn't let her have her dowry. So she was mad at him. She did something. She swung at him. He threw across his shoulder and beat her butt like a cow.
I remember that. Yeah.
So we've come through so many things that we know now it's been absolutely inappropriate and wrong and dehumanizing. And so again, we're saying all of this because the depth of your conditioning dictates your behavior.
That's right.
I think type that in. The depth of my conditioning dictates my behavior. Until I am aware of it. Until I am aware that that's what's driving me. That machine is driving me. And then Jill says this: the goal is to dismantle the machine of separation. Yes, sweetheart. Yes. It starts with us. It starts inside ourselves.
Yeah, Robert got a good one there. All this BS was done in the name
of God. It sure was.
The whole time.
It sure was. They felt God gave him license to do it. They did. The depth of my conditioning dictates my behavior. It has dictated my behavior until I've awakened. I know you can't type all that in, but that's the gist of it. The depth of my conditioning has dictated my behavior. And so we can't judge people based on their behavior because we don't know what they've been going through, what they've experienced.
And some
Yes,
people are still suffering with it.
yes, yes, yes.
This is the whole thing of the uproar in our DC government and all over the country
Mhm,
of this separation,
mhm,
war, and fighting.
mhm.
Not only are the blacks going through the thing, but the whole race of people
Yeah,
from Indian, black, white, all the way through
yeah, yeah.
is suffering at the
The
hands of each
machine,
other.
the machine is
Yeah.
active. It's active.
And what we out here in the classes are doing are showing you the history of the eternal Christ and the way he was dealt with as we moved along through generations that have changed it somewhat. But there are still churches that are using this to fight each other with.
Mhm,
I never
mhm.
seen so much fighting among pastors and preachers online about their past, who deserved to be a pastor and who does not. When I came along to be ordained, I had to go through something to get even temporary license to be identified as a preacher. And what got me into the church was I thought that when Jesus appeared to me, I thought that I was meant to go to church, and in church I would find the right people that would encourage me to move on. But when I got there, I found more hell in church than I did in the frying
We
pan.
found more mentally ill people in
Yeah,
church. They were just as mentally ill as everybody else, and so in some cases
very
worse.
abusive in the
In
church.
some cases more so, because it was covered with religious language and religious traditions, and they weren't ready to face what was really staring them, just looking at them in the face. They weren't really
So when
ready
I
to look at
finally
it.
got my paperwork for preaching, I had to do trial sermon and all that kind of stuff. And we
Now,
were conditioned that we're supposed to meet with the elders and the bishops
mhm.
for them to determine but whether I was ready or not. And we had testimony services and I started testifying and the first thing they said was,
You
you
ready
gonna
to preach?
preach.
You ready to preach? But
And
I
it's
like what
just like
Robert
that.
put. He said, "When you're no longer controlled by your mind, you are immune to the mind control and free to live or love fearlessly." Yes, yes, I got you, Robert. I got you. That is true. And so what we're saying now is that when we say the depth of your condition has dictated your behavior, we're saying we have lived under the control of our minds
Mhm.
and under the beliefs that we've been preconditioned to believe. And so that now is changing. It's changing for a lot of us. We have really walked away from the the torments of our mind, and still doing so when we become aware or wake up in the midst of the molestation of the mind, I should say. John says this. John says, hopefully, this is the last fight of our conditioning for all mankind. I hope so too, John. I do. And I think and I wanted to say this because John's he's not black. He's a white guy, one of our most loved white guys. But I have a young lady who Jan who comes by. She's one of our white neighbors, as sweet as she can be. She doesn't know anything about the conditioning of blacks, what
No,
they've
she
been
don't know
through.
anything about it.
She doesn't know what they've had to endure. So there are a lot of our our family, our white family, the parts of our family that are white that don't know about all of this stuff, who don't understand why black folk were are the way they are, why they act the way they act. And so and they also have had they've been conditioned like my dad's people who were they looked white. They weren't white, but they looked white. They had freckles, red hair, and blue and green eyes, and
They look like you.
even more so.
Yeah.
And so and they were prejudiced.
Yeah.
They didn't want any dark kids in the family.
Yeah.
We were the darkest kids in the family, so we were the outcasts.
Yeah.
So the prejudice was passed down, the separation was passed down. So it's not just about white people and black people, because that same prejudice was right there in my family. They didn't want any black kids, any dark kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just been passed down. So I'm praying and hoping the same as you, John, that this would be the last fight of our conditioning for all mankind. It's time for the machine to be shut down.
When Jesus revealed himself to me from day one on this side, he did not carry on him, and his clothes was not Jewish, they were not black or white or racial discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
He had none of that in him.
Yeah.
He did not look like a man that had long, straight hair. It was neat. It was neat, like he had been to a barber and had it touched up, but that's just the way he was.
Mm.
When he pointed his hand at me, they were neither white nor black.
But it was both.
It was
It
all
was
of it.
all.
And his eyes was the color of everybody's eyes in the universe.
Mhm.
And I tell people this all the time. So I wrote some notes over here on paper about how he showed me how to talk to the Christ in people and get a response from them. I can listen now to people talk and can tell when they are speaking from their true identity. And it don't have to be a cussing or a fussing, or it could be, but I can see him.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me over the years how to see him in everybody I meet based on the word, the definition of eternal self, the eternal self, no dying, no birthing. And in my research investigating into near death studies, I found out that every man, every person looks just like him on the inside, with or without a confession of him being Lord, without salvation, without anything that we taught in church. And this was not an antichrist that I saw. And one thing people need to understand that a Bible, daddy called, mama said, picking up the Bible and somebody went. We found out that Jesus was originally no racial discriminations. He was not portrayed as Cecil B. DeMille's portrayed him, nor every Christmas or whenever they showed the Christ story, he was not like that at all. They give a history of him being a Jew. He did not portray himself as a Jew, a Methodist, holiness. When I was in the council chamber, I saw every generation of race of people around the council table. And they did not portray themselves as Muslim, Church of God in Christ, Baptist, Methodist, or holiness. They were people.
They were unified.
Unified with love. I even saw people that were no religion, no belief, that they were board council people that showed me the truth behind what happens in the heavenly realm versus what we see in here on earth. Then I found out that Jesus Christ was the manifestation of the truth that every man is a eternal being.
Yes. Yes.
Die or study it, and you'll find out that the Christ that you are, deeper than your race and your complexion, is one of the same ones in everybody. But the mind switches back and forth from being in Christ based on religion and out of Christ based on not being in religion. There's no such thing.
There isn't. That's right. That's right.
And so now our government is trying to take back the old grave sites of blacks and white fighting against each other, taking sides and taking positions. That is not the real Christ, but it has its meaning. It brings a lot of us to face up to different things and to know things about the truth. The truth of the Bible is not the pages.
That's right.
The original version of the scriptures is the Christ in you.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to read this passage, and I think we've been here an hour and 10 minutes. Really? This is in First Peter 2, in the 5th verse. It says, "You also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. Wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, Behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believes on him shall not be confounded. Unto you, therefore, which believe, he is precious. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner, and a stone of stumbling, and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. But," in the 9th verse, "you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light."
Mm-mm.
That is so good right there. You're a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that should show forth the praises of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. So this is who you are. This is who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it is who we all are, no matter what our complexion, no matter where we began, our bodies began. Because that, again, our body is not who we are. But all of mankind is the same family. We're the family of God. So I make a declaration, I make a covenant with myself that I will do my best to not judge any being for their behavior. I'm going to make that commitment to myself to do my best to avoid talking about people bad, talking down on people, saying bad things about people, talking about them and how they should be this and they should be that, and wishing they were different. And I'm just gonna love them as best I can, and and believe that the Lord is going to grace all of us to be able to affect one another with this truth, with this love that he is, that God is. So this is where we are. I hope you got something out of this. Robert says y'all got to see his video called Ronnie's Friend, and you can find that on Every Man's channel. He is working hard to dismantle the machine, and I am helping him. I know you are, Robert. I know that's been your passion for a long time, a long time. And it is now becoming more and more of our passion. I don't know if we'll do things the same way you do it, Robert, but we're in the same boat, boy. We're in the same boat. Light shines without need for comparison. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that means I don't have to have any animosity toward my white family, the parts of my family that's white. I don't have to have any animosity. I can't even judge them for their behavior because there are things that they've been conditioned to believe, and that's dictating their behavior as well. So we are learning to walk in God's unconditional love. Unconditional love. Pastor, you
Well,
got anything else you got to say? We're
I
going to
believe that's
say,
about it for today.
give me a thumbs up if this resonated with you, if it helped you at all. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know. And in the meantime, be aware of how you can give. We appreciate all of your giving. Thank you, John. He says hit the like and the love button. Thank
Yeah,
you
we
so
need
much.
you severely. We need your financial assistance.
We would appreciate your giving from the place of love. Not so much because we're the best speakers in the house,
Right.
not so much because we brought to you the every solution that you need, but because you love us and because you love what's being said, we know that you will give, and we thank you for that. Thank you,
And
guys. Thank you so
some of the
much.
people that was greatly important to us, financial assistance, have stopped. And I'm asking for new ones to come in and help us keep going if you can. We appreciate everything, every little bit or a large amount that you give is appreciated.
It is. It
But
is.
some of the people have
It
stopped
is.
giving. And so now we're in a situation where we have somewhat of an emergency to keep things going. And we thank you for all that you've done in the past. And until we see you again, which will be on the turnaround, John Greason,
The turnaround.
that's the turnaround, will be on Tuesday at 7.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sandra. She said, yes, that is one of my goals. I also will stop all judgments of any kind. And it's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy, but we make that commitment. We make that covenant.
I can give you a clue to make it easy if you're willing to make the change and hit the switch.
Hit the switch. Yeah.
And that is go all the way into the Christ awareness of your true identity, which is inside of every man.
Yeah.
And go all the way into it and use his forgiveness and his love that you are in your eternal self.
Yes.
The eternal self is inside of every man, woman, and child. Talking to babies in the womb like I have for years showed me that I was talking to the Christ consciousness inside an expected mother. And I like to talk to the children when I see them in the store because I'm talking to a fresh Christ awareness that they don't even know who they are, but I can see him.
Yeah. Oh, I want to share this before we go. Yesterday, I got up and I said, I just got to clean out Pastor's prayer closet. For those of you who don't know, Pastor has a prayer closet. In every place we've lived, we've always had a central closet in the house. Even when we got married and we lived in my mom and dad's house, he had a closet under the stairs where he could go and pray. And I set it up for him so he could have that as his little sanctuary. So every house we've owned, we've had a central closet like that, a prayer closet. So yesterday I decided this house we live in now has that same closet. We haven't, that closet hasn't been cleaned in 30 years.
Yeah, that's true.
I went in there and I said, oh my God. And there's no clothes or anything in it. It's just a prayer closet. It's just a chair and his little paraphernalia, like with your little headphones and things like that. So, but it was so dusty. And all of the prayer requests, what he's done, we take the birthday cards, we take all of the cards you guys send, and anything else. I even found a couple of dollars that had prayer requests written on them. So now, instead of them just laying on the side, they're taped on the wall. So if you send us anything, that's where your prayer request will go. So I cleaned all that out, and it looks so good, smells so good. Now we're going to get some more prayers through. I tell you, there's going to be some power come out of that.
Yeah.
Some power coming out of that.
Good to go.
So we will be back on Tuesday at 7 Young Peoples. And hopefully you'll be able to be with us. And thank you for sticking with us through the duration of this session. And I love you. We love you. Thank you so much for being a part of Cornerstone. We're going to go now.
Yep.
We will see you later.
Thank you for the love gifts. We'll see you in a turnaround.
Bye-bye.